Their harmonies, flawless.
Monday, Monday, so good to me.
Their music, timeless.
Each night before you go to bed, my baby, whisper.
The group's lifespan, just 3 years.
It wasn't that long. We crammed an awful lot into that short space.
It kind of felt like a decade or a century while we were going through it.
It felt like a lifetime, you know. I mean, it really did.
Tonight on Behind the Music, the story of a self-described dysfunctional musical family. From their bonding days on a tropical paradise to the collapse of their California dream. From their overnight success to their over-the-top excess.
I think if the group had gone another couple of years, we'd all be dead.
Denny Doherty, Papa John Phillips, his one-time wife Michelle, Mama Cass Elliot. To the outside world, they seemed to be an inseparable foursome. Behind their harmonious sound, there were two love triangles that would first inspire, but ultimately devour.
He looked at me and he said, you know, I made you who you are today. And I gave it to you, and I can take it all away.
Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you.
And for the first time ever, Mama Cass Elliot's sister puts an end to the rumors surrounding the singer's death.
I just thought it was terribly unfortunate because it became a punchline in so many things.
Tonight, a VH1 exclusive. The surviving members of the Mamas and the Papas come together to tell their extraordinary story behind the music.
We were on the merry-go-round and didn't know that we'd purchased a ticket, you know? The ride was going, and as a matter of fact, by the way, you've caught the gold ring. We didn't even know we were on the ride. Well, we want to get off, though.
It's been years since the original Mamas and the Papas made music together. The surviving members have long since gone on with their lives. The songs and sound they created decades ago have a permanent place in history. But it is the events that took place while they were making that music that would leave an indelible and profound mark on each and every one of them.
It's a big story. It's a story about love and betrayal and friendship and music, and I mean, it's so grand.
In 1964, folk music was in full swing, and a young songwriter named John Phillips was in a group called the Journeymen. John and his wife Sue lived in New York. While Sue took care of the couple's young children, Mackenzie and Jeffrey, John traveled across America playing coffee houses and small clubs. It was in one of those clubs, the Hungry Eye in San Francisco, where Michelle Gilliam first laid eyes on John.
I fell in love with John immediately from the audience, and I thought that he was very funny. He was very much in control. He was powerful. He was talented. He was everything I wanted in a man.
Michelle was the quintessential California girl.
She was the first one with the long, straight blonde hair and the hippie look. The very first one in the whole world.
Michelle was on summer vacation in San Francisco from her hometown of Los Angeles. John and Michelle met, and after a 2-week tryst, they fell in love.
You know, he was married. It was very awkward.
Oh, yeah. And I was married and had 2 children, and she was 16. And I was 25.
And I really didn't know where I stood with John.
And I was determined that this would not happen, of course, but she was determined it would happen. And you've met Michelle, so you know that that does happen.
And he said, I'll call you. And he didn't. I went to see his wife. I'm every man's nightmare.
She said, you know, get out of town. He's mine now, that kind of stuff, you know.
And she told me that John had a Michelle in every town. And she felt sorry for me.
As it turns out, John's wife was wrong. Somehow, in 2 short weeks, the young musician and the much younger schoolgirl had formed a romantic bond.
When I look back on it, I wonder, how could I have done that? It just seems so insensitive and mean. But there you are, you see.
While John and Michelle were coming together, the Journeymen were breaking apart. So as John decided to form the new Journeymen, it quickly occurred to him that if he made Michelle a member, they'd bring home twice as much money.
I said, I can't sing. He said, you sing fine.
So now that Michelle was on board, John needed to find a singer who could lead his group. Enter Denny Doherty. Denny had grown up in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Known in folk circles as an all-around nice guy with a booming tenor voice, John figured he would fit in perfectly with the group. He did.
Cry your eyes out over me.
Within 3 months, the new Journeymen, featuring Denny, and the newly married John and Michelle hit the road. But there was a problem. Folk was hitting a dead end.
And I'm going, John, it's over. It's been over for about a year now. It's called the Beatles, man. Can't you know what's going on here? We got to go electric.
One night in the fall of 1964, in a small apartment in New York's Greenwich Village, 3 events would take place that would forever change John and Michelle's music and their lives. For the first time, they would experience the sound of the Beatles, the magical presence of Cass Elliot, and the effects of LSD.
You want some? Oh, yeah. We each took one.
Flash me. See the colors.
John, lying on his back on the floor, with the stereo speakers either side of his head where I'd placed them, and I turned the Beatles up full and said, this is what you got to get into.
And there was a knock at the door. And I remember that as I opened the door, I came onto the acid. And there was Cass standing there in a pink Angora sweater,
She had on this pink Angora sweater
a white pleated skirt,
and a little white pleated mini skirt
little white go-go boots,
and matching go-go boots.
lashes out to here, and her hair in a flip.
She looked like a giant mushroom.
And I thought, wow, this is an amazing drug.
Well, these women always raving about their monkey men.
Cass Elliot grew up in Virginia, and by most accounts, once you met Cass, you would never forget her.
She did know how to make an entrance.
Wild women don't get the blues.
Leah Kunkel is Cass's sister.
Cass was a star. She was a star from the time she was 2 years old. She'd be entertaining on the bus.
At age 18, Cass headed for New York. Although she wanted to be a Broadway star, she ended up in a pop group called the Big Three.
If I had wings like Nora's dove, I'd fly.
One night, Denny saw Cass on stage, and they became fast friends. Denny loved Cass's sense of humor, and Cass just loved Denny.
I think initially it might have been each other's voices that drew each other to it, you know? But then Cass saw something that she liked in moi, and I didn't realize where she was coming from with her feelings toward me until much later.
She's madly in love with Denny all of her life. But from the time she met him, she just absolutely adored Denny.
No, 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 yeah.
After their night together in Greenwich Village, John, Michelle, Denny, and Cass became the closest of friends, and it soon became apparent that there was a musical genius in their midst. Even though John had yet to develop his trademark harmonies and style, there was a pure love of music that couldn't be mistaken.
He lived and breathed it. He woke up in the morning and he picked up his guitar. He loved to play and sing. He loved to write.
The melodies and lyrics he jotted down were the seeds of what would later become pop music classics. John would write about virtually every experience he had. On a cold winter's night in New York, he transformed Michelle's longings for the warmth of sunny Southern California into one of his most famous songs.
I started playing the guitar, writing in the middle of the night, and I said, hey, Michelle, wake up, wake up. She said, I'm sleeping, leave me alone. You'll never regret this. Just write these words down. That's all I ask you to do. Just write, I'll give you half of it. Write And Cass just couldn't make the note.
It was early 1965, and the new Journeymen were having trouble getting gigs. So in the name of creativity, John, Michelle, and Denny decided they needed a change of scenery.
We got a globe, which we give a good spin to. Michelle took a dart and threw it. I mean, that's where we're going to rehearse. Wherever it lands is where we're going.
Next, music, magic, and mayhem, tropical style.
It was all full moons and romance. It was magic, you know.
And later, how the masters of perfect harmony hit a sour note.
I fell madly in love with the same man that Cass fell in love with.
You cannot mend someone's broken heart. And never mind a broken heart, you can't mend 4 of them.
When Behind the Music continued, 18 of their closest friends left New York City for St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands.
Broke, busted, disgusted, ages can't be trusted, and if you want to go to the sea.
John, Michelle, and Denny had planned on settling in a quiet place in order to fine-tune their sound. But there was a problem. The group had nowhere to stay. So John introduced himself to Duffy.
Duff had this 18-room motel, you know, which he was just squeaking, barely making a living on a 6-seat bar. We got drunk together and we were talking, you know, and I said, what you need here is some live entertainment, you know, Duffy.
Come to my place. I'll put you up. He didn't know what he was getting into. They kept coming, and then the dogs, and they had these 2 crazy motorcycles. I almost killed myself.
Meanwhile, Cass had stayed in New York to perform. As for John, Michelle, and Denny, their plan was a simple one. They would live off of John's credit card until the money ran out, and in the meantime work out the musical kinks at Duffy's place. And there were plenty of kinks.
People just didn't go to hear them, and I don't know why.
We were really bad. And there was this really slick New Jersey cover band playing in the club right beside us, and they were great. And we were just fumbling around. It was horrible, you know, nobody came.
They were breaking me, yeah. Well, I wasn't paying them that much. I mean, I forget what it was, maybe $150 a week. I'll just take a guess at that for all of them. You know, but I was feeding all of them, too, in the early days, and, you know, and booze was cheap, so that wasn't a problem, and drugs never seemed to be a problem.
2 months passed as the 3 friends worked on their music. Drugs had become commonplace on the island, and the group was stoned more often than not. When their old friend Cass came to town in pursuit of a good time, and of course, Denny, things would really heat up.
She walked in, and they said, Cassie, this is Duffy. She said, hi, Duffy. I said, hi, Cassie. She said, open your mouth. I said, what? She said, open your mouth, stick out your tongue. So I opened my mouth and stuck out my tongue. She had an eyedropper with acid. She said, you're on a trip. And when she joined us, she had a bottle with an eyedropper in it, full of liquid. And it was like communion every morning. And people get up and are you awake? Or she'd come to your bed. Wake up now and get a drop on the tongue. Everybody get a drop on the tongue. Come on, now we gotta have breakfast. And everybody up and get dressed and we get up at the beach before we start peeking.
As their friends came and went, John, Michelle, Denny, and Cass became inseparable.
Shake it up, baby.
As for Michelle, she was growing up very quickly. Her youthful dependence on John was growing old.
And she was tough, boy. She was tough. And if the drugs were out, she wanted at least her share and then half of yours. I mean, Mitchie could handle it.
I mean, Michelle can swear like a sailor and, you know, drink like Duffy.
I couldn't believe that little girl.
Whether it was the abundance of drugs or tropical island fever, things on St. Thomas were about to get very complicated. While John immersed himself in writing and arranging, Denny and Michelle's friendship was slowly but surely becoming romantic.
I fell madly in love with the same man that Cass fell in love with.
Walk down the beach, go for a swim, sit out at the table, have a drink, smoke a joint. You're there. What do you do? We were thrown together.
And he said, I'm going to kiss you. And he just, I didn't say anything. I was just going, oh, my. And he landed this big, wet kiss on my mouth, and I was just in heaven.
It was very, very naughty, but it felt good.
After that kiss, Michelle felt obligated to tell John.
It wasn't a blatant thing like, I'm having an affair with Denny. That came later.
I didn't have the maturity to say, I shouldn't be lying in Denny's arms, you know, while we're, you know, picking shells out of the sand.
John turned a blind eye to the flirting, but when Cass found out, she was devastated, and Denny couldn't understand why.
Even then, it didn't really dawn on me how Cass felt about me. You know, I didn't know how deep her feelings really were.
Cass wasn't about to leave Denny alone on the island with Michelle. So in order to keep an eye on him, she convinced Duffy to hire her as a waitress.
She was a horrible waitress.
Oh, she wasn't waiting table, she was singing.
Cassie served 3 beers in 3 months that night.
And she swallowed a lot of pride and a lot of hurt feelings and a lot of rejection. Yeah, and she stayed.
It was while waiting tables that Cass began to sing harmonies from the floor. Her harmonies may have been uninvited, but they were impossible to ignore. Still, John wasn't convinced that she could hit the high notes. And then, according to John, a strange event would change his mind.
And a lead pipe fell down, hit her on the head, knocked her unconscious. And we took her to the hospital, and she was there 3 days. And it was a mild concussion, you know, not severe, but moderate, I would say, moderate concussion. She came back, and we started singing, and suddenly Cass had the extra note. And we didn't know what had happened, you know? It was like, boing.
I mean, she probably did get hit on the head with a pipe, but if that makes people sing higher immediately after this interview, I'd like you to clock me a couple of times.
She did seem to be able to make the notes easier. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but that happened.
We gelled as a group vocally, you know, musically on the island at that time was when we really put the sound together.
You gotta go where you wanna go, do what you wanna do.
And just as the foursome was coming together, their credit card got cut off and they ran out of cash. Cass was the first to leave the island. She caught a plane to L.A. Virtually broke, John, Michelle, and Denny hopped a boat, bid adieu to their friend Duffy and St. Thomas. The threesome got as far as Puerto Rico, but they needed to get back to New York.
We've got about 50 bucks. That's all we got left, $50 cash. And you see John sitting there, the wheels are turning.
Take it to the casino? He said, it's useless to us otherwise.
John goes right to the crap table. Michelle gets the dice.
And I threw 17 straight passes at the crap table.
The place is going berserk. There are people at the table winning like 30, 40, 50 grand.
Guys around us are making like 100 grand. They, roll 'em, Blondie.
Come on, Blondie. Yeah, honey, roll them bones. Bang, 10 times. Yeah, place goes crazy.
And we made enough money to fly us all first class back to New York. And that was the beginning of the omens.
It was the summer of '65, and by the time 1966 would roll around, these four friends would have a new name and a top 10 hit. Next, the Mamas and the Papas hit it big, then hit a wall.
We signed the recording deal, and the soap opera blew up. It was over as soon as it began.
And later, the rumors fly about the untimely death of Mama Cass.
That was a heroin den, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, sure was. Oh, we found the half-eaten sandwich by our bed.
When Behind the Music continues.
It's around his cradle, oh, yeah. Very musical, very musical.
He was a very, very solid writer, but I think that his real genius was in the way he arranged vocals.
Somebody must have lied to me.
It was late fall in 1965, and New York City was cold, a bitter change from the balmy Virgin Islands. Michelle was itching to return to warm weather, and Denny and John were anxious to see how their new sound would be received. There was only one place to go. Barry suggested the foursome perform for Lou, but Cass refused. She was angry with Denny and Michelle for their island flirtations, and with John for his reluctance to let her into the group.
We asked her to please come and sing with Lou Adler for us. She said, well, okay, but I'm just going to come and just for the audition. I'm not part of the group.
So off to Western Recorder's studio on Sunset Boulevard. They had no idea what lay ahead of them, and neither did Lou Adler.
He had his little hat down over his nose like this.
Grim, very grim.
We'd sing a song and he'd go, mm-hmm. Got anything else? Mm-hmm. Everything he'd go, got any more?
I don't know how cool I was on the outside, but I mean on the inside, I literally couldn't believe what I was hearing. I knew that if this group ended up on my label and that I was producing them, that we were going to do something really special. I mean, they were unbelievable.
He has to come back the next day, and there were contracts all over the floor. And you've never seen anybody join a group faster than Cass Elliot because, you know, she was a very practical girl.
Now we got Cass and we got power. And when Michelle could sing with Cass and John and I would keep up, then it just blossomed.
Every other day of the week is fine, yeah. But whenever Monday comes,
Within 24 hours, Lou Adler and his record label Dunhill were offering John, Michelle, Denny, and Cass a recording contract.
But John said, well, I don't know, we can't really sign. We need an advance and everything.
And Lou just went, what do you guys want? I mean, I'll give you anything, you know, take it.
And I'm thinking, here comes a major amount of money.
I thought, I want a constant stream of money from your office to our house.
He said $1,500, and I mean, I swallowed because I expected something, you know, much more than that for what I was seeing and hearing. And they needed a car to get around, and they needed their rent to be paid.
He got us a house right away, a car right away, everything, charge accounts right, every place right away.
In less than 48 hours, they named themselves the Mamas and the Papas and were in the studio recording their first single, California Dreamin'. Within 3 months, it was a hit.
I'm walking along the street and David Crosby comes screaming up in his Porsche, pulls the brake, jumps out of the sunroof and goes, yeah, man, congratulations. You know, what, Dave? What are you talking about? You got a hit. What? Said it's number 40 with a bullet. What the hell's he talking about? Number 40 with a, in Billboard. He goes, what Billboard? And I'm looking around for billboards. He said, no, man, it's a trade magazine. You got a big hit record. We do?
It was like you woke up one morning and you were famous and you were rich. And it was like winning the lottery, I guess.
While the single of California Dreamin' was on its way to #1, the group entered the studio to record their first full album. The time spent in the studio was magical. John, Michelle, Cass, and Denny moved into a house in Hollywood. They seemed as close as 4 people could be. But almost as quickly as their single was climbing the charts, their friendship would begin to deteriorate. The flirting between Denny and Michelle began to escalate. Cass was getting angrier, and John was becoming more withdrawn.
I was definitely pulling away from John and closer to Denny during this period when we came back to California.
And then one night after dinner, with John and Cass passed out, the inevitable happened.
And Denny got up and went to the sliding glass door, opened it up, and he just went. And we went into the next door apartment and consummated this, finally, on the wall-to-wall.
She was maturing as any young woman would, you know. I mean, I understand it. I mean, I have no problem understanding the process that happens, and it did happen.
I was so young. I hadn't had the experiences of having relationships or having boyfriends or, I mean, I never finished high school. I never went to the prom. I never had high school boyfriends. I had so much growing up to do. And I couldn't help the things that I felt.
When Michelle told John that she had slept with Denny, he was understandably upset. But it was Cass who was downright furious.
She said to me, you can have any man you want. Why take the man that I love?
And he was just God to her. And when he had an affair with Michelle, it just really hurt Cass very, very badly, you know.
You cannot mend someone's broken heart. And never mind a broken heart, you can't mend 4 of them.
After that night, things would never be the same. The relationship of these 4 friends who had been through so much together changed. They were growing up, they were growing apart, and they were growing rich.
And then it just went,
The money is on it, and what do you want? You got the world by the ass, kids. You need some cars, right? You need some cars? What do you want?
Then he got a new Cadillac convertible, Michelle like a Jags.
Cass, what do you want? I want a Porsche 911 with a sunroof. Bang, there it is.
It was one of the great salves of mending our relationship was the money.
The lifestyle was kind of salve on that wound, or, you know, icing on that cake, but the cake was made of caca.
By mid-1966, 7 months after the Mamas and Papas arrived in California, Monday started its climb up the charts. The group had more than just money. They had inconceivable fame. But as they became more popular, the parties got bigger and the drugs became more plentiful. John, meanwhile, was becoming more resentful of Denny and Michelle's affair.
Saw her again last night. There was no mistake. He wrote that about Michelle and I.
I wrote that to punish Dennis. He even helped me write it, as a matter of fact. So he had to sing it every night on stage.
Who knew it was going to be a big hit? And we have to sing it every night on stage.
I saw her again last night. Yeah, I like that shit.
He used to say, you know, this is what we call turning tragedy into publishing. and that made it okay for him. As long as it was a hit song out of it, then I was forgiven.
But by this time, John and Michelle were fighting regularly. And just as the group was about to enter the studio to record their second album, the couple split up. Michelle went off to live on her own, as did Cass. John and Denny became roommates.
Looking back, it was a way of keeping an eye on each other. We're together, so we can't be with her.
Meanwhile, Cass was having the time of her life. If she couldn't have Denny, she would have fun.
I remember some guy in the audience screaming out to her once, "Cass, I love you."
And she's like, "Dynamite, I'm in room 399 at the Hyatt," you know. She actually threw a room key out.
She was a sex symbol, and she was real and accessible.
This 300-pound woman doing Sophie Tucker like it ain't never been done.
Was I to blame for being unfair?
Fat women aren't supposed to be light on their feet when they dance. They're not supposed to be sexy. They certainly aren't supposed to be the life in the party. I mean, fat women are supposed to be over in the corner and be grateful for every crumb of attention they get.
Life was moving quickly for the Mamas and the Papas, whether they liked it or not. They were on this ride together. And what a ride it was. Next, John gives the group an ultimatum. Either Michelle goes or he does.
I remember that period of my life as being possibly the most desperate months of my life.
And later, the Mamas and the Papas run out of steam.
There was nothing left to say about it, musically. Or in any way, I think.
When Behind the Music continues. It was the summer of 1966, and while the Mamas and the Papas were about to deliver their second album, the tension between them was becoming unbearable. Cass was distancing herself from the group, John was drifting toward a life of drug abuse, Denny was immersing himself in alcohol, and Michelle's vice was men.
She was dating Gene Clark, who showed up at one of our shows, and she starts blowing kisses to him in the front row, in front of John. Hi, honey. Hi, baby. And he's over here. What?
I got him tickets to the office, and I didn't realize that they were going to sit him up in the first 2 rows, and I didn't realize he was going to come in a big red shirt. And that was it.
I couldn't work with with Michelle any longer.
He chased Michelle off the stage at the end and chased her into the parking lot, and that was when he said, I think Michelle should be out of the group.
He told me I was fired, and he told the rest of the group that he couldn't work with me, and he would not work with me anymore.
I can't handle this. She goes or I go. That's it. That's it.
So they had a choice. They could go with me or they could stay with him. Well, that was kind of a no-brainer.
And if he went, and that was it. There was no more group.
So actually Michelle was fired from the group, and which was a dumb thing to do.
The very next day, John, with Denny and Cass's blessing, sent Michelle Phillips a letter.
The letter.
That letter informed her that she was no longer a member of the Mamas and the Papas.
Just after he fired me, he looked at me and he said, you know, I made you who you are today. And I gave it to you, and I can take it all away. And I didn't realize what a threat that was at the time. I just thought, wow, he's got a lot of balls saying that to me. But what I didn't realize was that it was true, that he could take it away. And it was a crushing blow to me when he did do it.
Michelle was quickly replaced by Jill Gibson, who at the time was dating producer Lou Adler.
She had the same physical features as Michelle. She had long blonde hair and she was slim.
She was not a singer, but within 2 weeks, she was a singer.
And in a final blow to Michelle, she was cut out of the group's second album cover. Jill was propped up in the exact same pose as Michelle and literally dropped on top of her.
I remember that period of my life as being possibly the most desperate, painful, hysterical months of my life.
For 2 months, the Mamas and the Papas toured with Jill as the new mama.
It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't sound the same. The dynamics that were going on in the group weren't there anymore. The excitement, the nutsiness, the thing that was the four of us being together, knowing what we knew about each other.
I wanted back in, and I didn't care what I had to do. And I begged and groveled. I got those old knee pads out. I was determined that one way or the other, I was going to get back into the group.
With pressure mounting from Denny and Cass, John finally caved. He realized that this group needed Michelle, but the damage had been done.
Human foibles. You can never get it back. You can live with it to a degree, but you can't get it back.
Each night before you go to bed, my baby.
Despite the turmoil, these four old friends continued to record their music. It was, after all, what brought them together in the first place. It was all they had.
This is dedicated to the one I love. This is dedicated.
But by 1967, the members of this once inseparable foursome were beginning to divide. In March, Mama Cass surprised the world by having a baby. She never revealed who the father was. John and Michelle would continue to try and make their rocky marriage work, but always drifted apart. John was on his way to becoming a full-blown drug addict.
John becoming so addicted to drugs was very sad because of the man that he had been, because of the man who wouldn't let a junkie in his house, who wouldn't let drugs come between him and his success, and a man whose whole life had been his music.
I had 12 Rolls Royces and a good art collection, and I slowly wasted all of it and went into a ever-diminishing concentric circles until I finally blew up myself.
Over the next year, the group would record 3 albums, but by now, John's drug use and troubles with Michelle were getting in the way of the music.
The overall work started to deteriorate. There were still gems, but there wasn't an overall where you had 7 or 8 straight cuts where the phenomenal song and sound came together.
Since a lot of the songs that I wrote during that period were based upon that feeling of family and that had been broken, I didn't write.
Although still an official member of the group, Cass was distancing herself from the others.
At a certain point, she says, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I could be a soloist. And then I wouldn't have to put up with any of these brats.
Because I think Cass, after she had her child, really felt a little bit alone in the world, like she had to make sure she took care of herself, and that meant taking care of her career, and that meant making difficult choices.
As Cass was finding her independence, she found herself depending on drugs to escape from the loneliness and to lose weight.
She was surrounding herself with a bunch of people who in my opinion, took advantage of her.
And I went up there one day and cleaned house, and went up there and sort of slapped my sister around and said, you know, wake up. These are the folks who are going to suck you dry, going to take everything you have. And
they were bad people. There were a lot of bad people that she was hanging out with.
You're on your own, babies, because we're sure on ours. Let's go!
By the summer of '67, the Mamas and the Papas were on their last legs. These were not the best of times. But John and Lou Adler, with the help of Michelle, found the energy to create the ultimate rock and roll event of its day, the Monterey Pop Festival. Almost exactly 3 years after that infamous night in Greenwich Village, when the Mamas and the Papas came together for the first time, they took the stage for what would be one of their final performances.
That cycle was over. It was the, you know, it was the end of an era, you know. That's just what it was.
Trust was gone. Faith was gone. All the good stuff was gone.
By the end of '68, the Mamas and the Papas would break up. In the ensuing years, each member would go their own way. John and Michelle would have a daughter, China, but shortly after her birth, they broke up for good. Denny escaped through alcohol. And Cass had her highs and lows. Some close to her suspected that she may have used heroin. She was pursuing her dream of a solo career and gave one last shot at pursuing a life with Denny.
She asked me to marry her. She married me because I can make you happy. And I was still running around with my heart on my sleeve, trying to drink Michelle out of my life. And she came by and tried to say, hey, man, get your head out your ass. You're losing everything you got here.
Denny says he was unable and unwilling, so he told Cass no.
And she left the house, and that's when she finally just said, no point. I got a life. I'm gonna go live it.
Cass left Denny that day and never looked back. She survived a dangerous bout with drugs and cleaned up her act. In 1974, Cass Elliot played 2 weeks of sold-out performances at the Palladium in London. Her solo career was on the rise. After finishing her final show in London, Cass went back to her apartment and laid down to go to sleep. On the morning of July 29, 1974, Cass Elliot was found dead. She was 33. When Behind the Music returns, the truth behind the death of Mama Cass.
Dream a little dream of me.
It was August 2nd, 1974, 6 years after the breakup of the Mamas and the Papas. Once a close-knit family, they saw little of each other these days, but this family was finally reunited, this time to bury one of their own. When those who loved Cass learned of her death, they were devastated, but nothing would compare to the pain they felt when the rumors started to fly.
This happened at night, so overnight, the media gets hold of the fact that Mama Cass Elliot died in foul play as expected. Oh, well, she must have died because of, you know, Keith Moon lived in that apartment. Was that a shooting gallery, wasn't it? That was a heroin den, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, sure was. Oh, we found the half-eaten sandwich by our bed.
If it was true that Cass had died choking on a ham sandwich, it certainly wouldn't seem to me to be a funny thing.
Give me a break. No, the coroner said she had a heart attack. Coronary.
Apparently, according to the autopsy report done in London, she died of a heart attack.
While authorities in England refused to release the autopsy report, the medical examiner said Cass Elliot died of heart failure. There were no drugs found in her system.
Her heart quit.
Almost 3 decades after Cass's death, her friends still miss her. In the years since, Denny has put the bottle away for good and stars in Dream a Little Dream, a one-man show dedicated to his old friend Cass.
Where will we be 5 years from now?
Michelle enjoys a successful career as an actress. And John, after decades of drug addiction and surviving a liver transplant, is now remarried and clean and sober.
Living up here in the penthouse, life can really be refined.
John is writing and recording again with his new group, Papa John and Mikhail Xana Rose. Sadly, he and Michelle no longer speak.
It all just fell apart, you know, and we never, again, liked each other. We always sort of tolerated, and then it got less and less and less and less, to this point where I won't even talk to her on the phone.
They should be friends. They did great things together, and if they could just, they're hating as much as they loved, and that's probably the problem.
I think it is sad too. But, you know, John doesn't want to do that, and he doesn't want to talk about it.
John, Michelle, Denny, and Cass. They were 4 unique individuals whose lives converged and sometimes crashed into one another. It may have been loud and it may have been messy, but when the smoke cleared, there was the music. And in January '98, that music and the group that created it will be honored for all time when the Mamas and the Papas are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was all the good, it was all the bad.
It's like a little flame that burns for a while and then it burns itself out. But it could not have gone on any longer than it did. I would never trade the memory of any of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I don't think they were meant to stay together. I think it would have been a crime if they had, you know. I think it's a little gem. It's like Bermuda in the middle of the ocean, you know. It's a lovely, lovely place to remember and to go back to. But the pace was too furious. No one could live any longer.
Most wonderful things are not meant to last forever. They're special. They're unique. And they're just a little strange little bubble that happens. And that's what the Mamas and the Papas were.